Hey, we all have hectic lives, and buying or selling a home can just make things even more of a chaotic mess. If you are moving to the Austin area, what would you need to get comfortable with that decision? Even if you lived in town and you needed to purchase or sell a home, how would you want to be treated? Chris Ott with the Ott Group of Keller Williams Realty has been a longtime friend and was the guy who I worked with to find the perfect property solution for me. I wanted a professional with knowledge of the Austin area to help me with my home search, navigate the paperwork, and negotiate on my behalf. And Chris Ott was the right agent for the job. Chris, his business partner, Teresa Ott Busseau, and their team of 5 agents have helped thousands of people move to and from the Austin area. The Ott family is celebrating over 35 years in business in Austin and plan to provide their real estate services for many more years to come. Their mantra is, your move matters, and that is what they focus on. Just go to their website at theottgroup.com and get connected with the Austin real estate team dedicated to taking care of you. That's THEOTT group.com. You can also call 512-222-6881 or email them at info@theottgroup.com to get connected with them today. Tell them that Stephen with the Parent Portal Show sent you and start working with a professional who is dedicated to your next move. To the Parent Portal Show, Stephen Nold and James Gumbert this morning. You can always reach us at Stephen@parentportalshow.com and James@parentportalshow.com. We're excited. We have Mike Hammer, who has a great history with youth sports in the Central Texas area. Got a opportunity to visit with him today. Mike, you've had an amazing background with youth sports, and I was just kind of looking over some of the things that you've done. You launched your Allstate Insurance Agency back in 1988, and the next year you were serving as a TNC Sports Commissioner. What did that program look like as compared to what we see now at Town and Country Sports?
Well, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that. Thanks, Coach, for having me on today. I really appreciate that as well. Well, back in 1988, we still had a t-ball field and a 7-8-year-old field. Kind of back in that day too as well. We'd have sign-ups. People would come and sign up, and there'd be a line of 4, 5, 600 out the door, because back then you actually came in and you actually signed up and wrote a hot check, to the club, and it and back then too, it was really good because you could actually talk to the parents. That's where you found your coaches.
Yeah.
So that was kind of back in the day in 1988. But the kids are still 5, they're still 6, they still have baseball bats, still had helmets.
Well, and it was a paper process too. So it wasn't that
Yeah.
informal online process that we go through today. Now, you took over as you co-chaired the baseball program back in '96, and then you moved in as kind of president of the baseball program in '98, and then of course, you started doing things to work with the Syntex program. That was a program that started in 2000. Can you describe that a little bit for us and talk about launching Syntex?
Well, the Syntax program, which originally was the Syntax Classic Series, okay, and actually there was the programs of Town and Country, Cedar Park, Round Rock, and Sam Bass back in the day. Back then there was an all-star program that was pretty much heavy loaded, and we felt that the parity wasn't really well because they were having, you'd say number 1 teams, playing against number 3 or number 4 teams. And so the Syntax program, Classic Series, said, we're going to create a program that will just benefit and have them an all-star experience in the Division 2 or the second level. We got the better teams, the number 1 teams. If they want to go play in that national tournament, go right ahead. Okay, but we felt the parity was unfair, and we wanted all kids to play more baseball, and we wanted to have a great experience, playing that All Star season.
Yeah. No, that's a great program, and today it's so well run, and it's a lot of kids come out of that program. I think they really benefit from it. Town and country sports has grown phenomenally. Over the, I mean, we're getting ready to hit our 50th year anniversary. Over 209,000 youth have come through and registered in that program, and we've had operations of over $18.7 million spent on those youth sports programs. And as a nonprofit organization, it's just so well run. And I know you've been at the helm of that program for quite some time, and certainly looking forward to seeing where we go from today. How would you describe or tell parents about Town and Country at this point?
Town and country, like you said, we're really proud of it. Stephen, you're part of the program and the board at Town and Country as well to help run the program. And first of all, Town and Country is a community led field. It sets, people don't know that it sets there at the 183 620 area. Okay, and there are almost 100 acres. I mean, there are 9, 10 baseball, softball fields. People don't know we have 15, 20 soccer programs, soccer fields out there as well. And Town and Country is is ran by volunteer backs, as well as we do have some paid staff, just because of the technology and everything that is happening now. Nowadays we got to have that because volunteers can't go like back in 1988 where it was 100% volunteer. Now we got staff. Now we're growing. As you said, we're rolling, 9 or 10,000 kids through the program every year. Town and Country from the soccer side is probably the king of soccer. If you want to play youth soccer, that's where you go and play. And it's just a great organization. Great people are set in place, making sure that it's community run, that it's volunteer run, and that the kids, have an opportunity to learn the game of sport. And so we're really proud of Town and Country.
It's a great
Mike,
program. Go ahead.
Mike, those are just some incredible numbers. I mean, the amount of kids that you've been able to work with, the the resources that you've been able to obtain to be able to put that kind of product in North Austin is just it's staggering, and for it to be volunteer led for the most part for almost a generation, right? What as a commissioner, as a coach, as a parent, what has been one of the most rewarding things that you've taken away from your time with this?
You always kind of think about it's rewarding, that I've got a bunch of great guys that are around me as well, okay, that have come in to create the Syntax program. Same like people just wanting to do better and wanting to have a fair environment for the kids to play the game of sport. And so, God's given me that ability to kind of stand up and kind of be a leadership and be able to put some things together. And that's why I really enjoy it. But I can tell you back, what I remember more than anything in the world is uh, when I coached my son playing 8U coach pitch baseball. And he was a drafted, and so we had kids that are really good, and then we have kids that they were the first time players. And I'll never forget, the most rewarding thing is when, I think his name was George. I think when George finally, after about the fifth or sixth ball game, hit the ball, and he hit the ball fair, and he got to first base, our bleachers, our parents, our kids exploded, that he was able to accomplish that. So those are the great things that you kind of remember, those little things that really made a difference in that child's life.
It's really about the journey, right? A lot of the times we put so much emphasis on a championship or a medal or anything else, and it's those moments in the journey, like what you're describing, that stick with you over time, and you just see how sport is able to build consistency and give confidence to so many that you don't know if they would get it if they didn't have that opportunity. And what a great story! I mean, I'd love for you to connect with George down the road, and maybe you have, and and just see where he's at and if he remembers that moment, because it is it is moments like those that for administrators, you that's what pays the bills, right? That's what fills your cup.
Well, exactly. And, kind of when I was in the leadership, I knew that I've always said that, you always have different talent levels of children. I mean, you just do, whether it be in the schoolroom in books or whether it be on the baseball field or the football field, you got different levels. Okay. So m- my concentration and at the board at the time is that, we wanted a really a special time, special and pay attention to the to what we called the second level kids. Okay, we wanted to, that was our number one goal because I knew, that the 20%, 30% of the kids, those kids are going to be okay, athletic wise. But the ones that are kind of the bottom 50, the lesser ones, well, guess what? They need to be paid attention to. They don't need to be thrown out over the fence. They need to have an opportunity to play the game too, because especially when you're playing with youth sports, then it's 5 or 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. I mean, y'all know. I mean, a kid's got to get to junior high and pretty much to high school to really know what his true, abilities are. So we worked real hard so that everybody will participate, everybody will play, and everybody will get a chance.
That's awesome. So, Mike, let's back up on that athlete's path, right? So, thinking about those kids when they're very young, and mom and dad have got one or two coming up, and now all of a sudden, little Johnny's getting better at swinging the stick around in the backyard, or maybe he's picked up a football and thrown it around, or little Susie, she may be this upcoming softball player. What advice would you give to parents, thinking about first time parents who are trying to figure out youth sports? Where do we fit in? When should we start thinking about playing with a team? What should they be doing at this stage in their lives as they're kind of entering that first time play with a team, and how to get involved?
Well, first of all, what I've always said in the past is that the kids are, now they're in daycare, okay, because they're
Yeah,
5,
yeah.
they're 4, okay, and so, I always would start there or start in the elementary school, in the kindergartens or the first grade, and get with those parents, okay, and find out and ask a lot of questions, find out where they're playing, okay, because that's where your child's going to do best when he's around his friends or people they know in his school. And so getting the game started for them, I would look there first. Of course, once you kind of find out, like, okay, I'm going to pick Town and Country, okay, because I live in the northwest area of Austin, and there's a lot of teams available, and they got good staff, and they do everything fair. That's what you go to the websites, whether it be Cedar Park or whether it be Town and Country, whether it be Round Rock, and at that point in time, look at the website and see kind of how it's built. Maybe make a phone call or two, just to kind of see how things are built in that particular park. But I wouldn't start them too young. I mean, I would probably start around. They do have a 4-year-old program, and if your child is just climbing the fences all over the place, and you really need a place for him to go, just to burn off some steam, or then that there's nothing better than at Town and Country or one of those places for the little 4-year-olds just to introduce them to the game.
Mike, that's I got to tell this story. Last night, my kid is just 13, and he's 6'1". He's a tall kiddo, right? And we're playing basketball. And last night, a kid comes out on our team that is 6'2" at least, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Where's this guy been? Is he a new transfer in? Didn't know, And my son said, he goes, no, he just didn't come out until this year. He said he didn't play sports until this year. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. How did we miss this guy, as our community, and not getting him out? You can't teach height. And he was, he was all over the place and trying extremely hard and had a lot of passion, but just didn't have a lot of skill sets. Those kind of players that come through town and country, I mean, I think you got to see them, whether they're 4 or 14, and I think that's what's unique about an organization like Town and Country is that it's an all inclusive kind of thing. If it's your first time to be able to play, it's whether you're 4 or you're 14, it's still that moment of going through the door, or on the field, and having uncertainty, but having that place of feeling like you're accepted and welcome all at the same time. And as a parent, that's it's like, I want to make sure my kid's safe, but I want them to be able to thrive and build relationships, and and be able to excel so many ways. And it, it's those types of moments for our kids that I really believe help change and shape them.
I totally agree with that. I mean, and you're talking about the kids and coming in at 4, 5, or 6. You know, probably just as big as 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 what happens is that the parents, okay, will meet other parents, and I've got friends, lifetime friends now. Even though my kid is married and he's out, okay, well, you develop friendships, with those parents because they're in like mind, and you'll have friendships, till forever and ever that you would have created, and you never would have found those people not unless you participated, in youth sports and let them get a chance to play.
It's your community, right? And we talk a lot about community. Is that um, your kids' friends, parents become your friends, and it's because you share something. You share your kids, but you also share your love of sport, if you will, and it's you're attracted to that. I I think a lot that when we look at how we build our relationships, I could sit down with you on a baseball field, not know your name, but we could talk about how that pitcher throws the ball really well, or and all of a sudden that the the sense of not being able to know someone or approach someone or talk to someone, that's all down because you share something. You share a commonality that is just the love of sport.
Yeah, and I'll jump in, Mike. I agree that you develop lifelong relationships both for the athletes and for the parents, and there are friends that certainly we've developed over time. Um, Coach Gumbert's one of my friends that came through the sporting world, and we certainly have spent a lot of time off the field together as well as on the field. So, Mike, let's go back to that young athlete's path. That journey in front of them, and you've been through it several times and watched your kids develop and go through and go on past the high school and off into their lives. A lot of parents are trying to figure that out, and one of the challenges I think is, in this day and age, there is a lot of emphasis on money and paying coaches and clinics and camps. And, there isn't a youth sport around right now that doesn't have some kind of way to improve your kid over the holidays or over the summer, that you can't spend a lot of money on it. And, we have gone through those days, and certainly we all played daddy ball for a while, and then we tried to figure out, all right, now we've gotten past, our knowledge and coaching abilities. How do you advise parents to, there's kind of two levels. One is, how do you figure out what camps and clinics and how to spend some of that money, or should you spend some of that money? is part A, but then part B is determining, is your kid good enough? Is it worth is it worth spending that money? I want to take anything away from the kids, but when you start putting into that investment factor, those dollars can go really high really soon.
Well, those are two great questions, and I remember specifically, you know, trying to I asked that question myself, and so I went to an old baseball coach over at Westwood, because he had been through it. He's in high school baseball. I think my son was probably 9 or 10 at the time.
Uh,
I went up to him and says, "Hey, coach, what do I got to do here?" He says, "My son, he's playing. Maybe wants to be a pitcher, and who do I go to? Because there's so many of them out there to pick from." And he put his hand on my shoulder. He says, "Let me tell you, Mike, I know exactly the best place you need to go." I said, "Where's that?" He said, "The one closest to your house." And the reason why he said that is that what he was meaning is that there's a lot of programs out there, and there's a lot
Sure.
of different people out there,
Yeah.
okay, that are doing these things, you know, and so again, I would ask a lot of questions, of referrals, or some kind of recommendations to each one of the programs. I think the one closest to your house still makes very, very good sense, because I don't think one is. I've seen them all, and my son's played in three of them, and I don't see one any better necessarily than anybody else, because they're all run by individual people.
Yeah.
There are programs that are just downright big programs that have a nucleus of coaches, just not the one-offs. I kind of like those better because I think they're better organized.
Yeah.
Okay, and I believe they're better organized, and I think that the program, you know, the the dollars that you pay to them, go to background checks and things like that. You know that would help, the parents make sure their kids are safe. And
Yeah.
and what was the second question?
Well, the second question is, now
When?
you're
Oh, when? Okay, now when? Okay, I get it.
there. You go.
Well, okay, so you know, you know, you have to listen to your child is really what you have to do.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you will find out that there are a lot of daddies that will absolutely push and push because they played high school ball,
Yeah.
when they were in high school and they were all district or all state or whatever they were, they want their child to be that one too. Okay, so now we got him out there and he's 4 years old, and now he's 5 years old and he's T-ball, and man, he's got to go get T-ball training and swing training, and you're kind of going, whoa, hold on a second.
Right.
I mean, let the child. I believe that let the child go play ball, volunteer baseball. The coaches told me in the past the cream always rises to the top.
There you go.
I mean, and so whether 5, 6, the 7 and 8 year old baseball game, talking about baseball, is more in a coach pitch, so it's an adult controlled game. Then you get to the 9 and 10s, and the 9 and 10s is when the kids really start to learn the real game of baseball, because they're pitching, to them, to their own catcher. Okay, and that's where you really start to kind of see, kind of kind of what kind of attitude the kid has. Does he want to go to practice? Does he? I had one daddy tell me this story. He said he didn't want to go to practice anymore. So what the kid did is that he went and he'd throw his glove on top of the roof. So he couldn't find his glove, so he couldn't go to practice. Well, okay, so so there you go, right there. So you got to listen to your kid,
Yeah.
and you got to be wide open. And when it's time that he doesn't want to play, then you need to kind of know that, and not make it your game, make it his game. I mean,
Yeah.
I had an 11-year-old kid. My son played baseball. I wanted him to play baseball because I played baseball, and he was my first. And holy smokes, I wanted him to play baseball. And I bought him a brand new bat, batting gloves. I bought him everything in the world. And at 11, he goes, Dad, I really don't want to play baseball anymore. And I went, what? Well, you don't want to what? And I don't want to play baseball. I want to play soccer. I went, I don't know anything about soccer. He goes, I want to play soccer. Sure enough, went to McNeil High School, played on the soccer team through high school, and they nicknamed him Jet because he was so fast. I mean, so you got to listen to your kids. Don't make it
Yeah.
you, make it your kids.
Now,
Wow.
now,
What?
go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much there, right? Uh, I've always been the one kind of dad that said I don't want to coach my kid because I know how I am as a coach. All right, and it's like I really want my kid to be exposed to as many different coaches as possible, right? And but the one common theme that I've always pushed is when it stops being fun, that's when we need to look at this and say, what are we doing? And, a lot of the equation of fun doesn't really come through the skill set of throwing a ball, swinging a bat. It comes through, I'm with my buddies, right? And to your point is, 4 and 5 year old kids are just starting to form what a relationship might look like. And I've seen, people on the highest level and the just emerging level that if they're playing with their buddies, they will do anything to be there. Just to be there, whether they're playing or not, is secondary. It's that moment of like, hey, I'm connected to my friend, I'm connected. And it's a powerful thing in sports because you see it with, you were talking about 9 and 10 year olds, pitch and catch kind of moment, but it's like as they get bigger and they start playing for these, select teams, they don't know as many of the guys. And when they find that, that group that they can hang out with, to your point, play close to home, sometimes they just rather play close to home because they're with their buddies. They come back and tell like the guy who uh, poured water over him in the dugout, as opposed to like, hey, you hit a home run. And I think that's, man, we miss that a lot, in sport because we're pushing and we're like, you got to do this, you got to do this, and it's like, no, you just got to have fun with your buddies sometimes.
Well said.
Mike, how about coaches? There are good coaches and there are bad coaches, and I've seen a lot of them. And to me, it's a challenge. These are people that are working with our kids, and they're and hopefully helping them improve. And um, you know, what advice do you have for parents who may feel like their coach isn't the best coach, or are struggling with making sure the kids are learning something from the investment that they've made into a sport?
Well, I mean, Stephen, you're right. I mean, there are good quality. I mean, just like there's different levels of coaching, right? And there's some that kind of go in on the true volunteer that just want to uh, keep the kids together and they just want to kind of just learn the game, and then you have the ones that are just kind of over the top. I mean,
Yeah.
where they really get emotional. You know, what I've told all the parents too, because remember this, the youth game, whether it be Round Rock, Cedar Park, Town and Country, the youth game is volunteer. It's volunteer. Okay. And so, I always told, you know, back in the day, trying to talk, daddies or moms, into coaching, T-ball, because this is their first little baby. They've never coached before. I says, you know what? I got, I know exactly how do you determine that? It says if you know more baseball than a 5-year-old, then you're eligible to coach t-ball. You really are.
Yep.
And what I'll recommend, I say, parents, you need to get involved. It's volunteer. You need to get involved. I mean, whether it be, you know, uh, coaching third base, or maybe, throwing batting practice, or maybe because you know what, you're 90% of your kids, your own child will really enjoy you being part, of the team because you're kind of doing something together. And if you are involved with the team, well then at that time you will have input on the team as well, to kind of work together with how a practice is run, or how you're going to change your pictures, or whatever it might be. Okay, so that's what I would recommend. Now, if that truly can't be done, I would say just have a great conversation and get to know that head coaches and the coaches inside and out. So everybody's on a common page, so nobody has any problems. That would come out unnecessarily.
Yeah, and I have a lot of thoughts around that, Mike. It is one of those things where some of the most rewarding moments I've had on the fields are exactly like you described earlier. I remember kids that had special moments, and they weren't great athletes, and they weren't the best baseball player, and they weren't going to go on to the MLB or NFL, but yet there's been little successes and very rewarding moments where even the whole stands have joined in celebrating. Um, I think that parents that miss the opportunity of doing team sports, I think have really missed out on something that's very unique. And I know that all three of my boys have benefited from it. And I feel like that those are just special moments. And there's nothing like walking across a beautiful football field or a diamond late at night when you're having to turn the lights off at Town and Country, and you got your kid along with them and you're talking about the stars or whatever it is. And it's a beautiful summer night, and it's just a great moment of that bonding that we so cherish as a parent-child relationship. So there's a lot to say about these sports that happen both on and off the field, no doubt about it.
Now, I know at Town and Country, you kind of remind me of a little story. Back in the day, get there, you know, 5 o'clock, and leave at 10:30. I remember kind of being in the middle, and that's back when I was president and kind of the leader of the bunch, and I was talking with some commissioners and coaches about stuff, and I think my youngest son, I think he was 4. Okay, and at Town and Country, we got a beautiful creek that runs right through the middle of Town and Country Creek.
Yep.
And so sure enough, I hear this daddy, daddy screaming, daddy, 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 and he's running across that football field you're telling me about. And I turn around, and what he's got is he has got a bucket and he's got a net. He says, I caught 3 fish and a crawdad. I caught 3 fish and a crawdad, and he had to show me. You
Yeah.
know what? And with all the hundreds of hours of it out there, that's like you're talking about. It had nothing to do with baseball, but being out there with your kiddo playing in that creek, I remember that. I'll never forget that at all.
Yeah, number of kids I've seen by that creek bed with their shoes off and in that water trying to find the next fish or the next crawdad. It's been precious. Well, I want to wrap things up. I think Mike, it's you've had a great history with youth sports, and overall, there's been a lot of changes since you got involved. Certainly, since I've gotten involved, I think parents are more interested nowadays in paying for expertise a little bit. I think sports continues to change. NIL is happening. Coach and I were talking about that earlier, how crazy it's making that whole decision process in the future. I mean, I'm freshman, he's eighth grade players at this point, and it's still very concerning about some of the challenges that are going on, and Title IX continues to raise its head. But just looking at the landscape overall, Mike, I mean, just what kind of thoughts do you have as we move forward? I mean, Town and Country's got a great vision. They're building. They've got a new complex that they're looking at, and I think youth sports isn't going away, but there is a little bit of a challenge with the dichotomy. The wealth and the privilege get to play, and underprivileged don't always get to play, and these are the problems that we're here to solve as leaders, and you've been a leader for quite some time.
Well, I believe that yeah, it has changed quite a bit. I mean, back in the day when I kind of started out, they didn't have really these select teams at all. The only select programs were like the Wings or Slam or one of those programs. But guess what? They didn't start taking kids till they were 13. They were kind of 13 through high school because they were kind of Oh, they were the summertime. They were the summertime program, okay, for the kids back in the day,
Huh.
because of getting ready for college, getting playing high school ball, and possibly getting ready to go into college. That was that game in back in the day. Well, now now we're seeing select t-ball coming out of some of the programs, which is just unbelievable. It's hard to believe that. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I make a comparison. Parents, I make a comparison. I mean, let's just go to school. Let's just say you're a sophomore in high school. You got a kid a sophomore in high school, and guess what? He's not doing real good in math at all. And he needs to get his grades up. Okay, so what are you going to do? You don't know enough about math to jump in there and try to teach him how to do it. So what do? You go and find a tutor, and you
Yeah.
pay X amount of dollars per hour to get a tutor. Well, let me tell you, the parents nowadays, they're pretty smart because they've seen all this kind of grow. Okay, and they're seeing kind of how it evolves, and so now those younger parents are only they see that, and so I say you kind of do the comparison. If you got a child that really needs to excel and wants to excel, whether it be baseball, whether it be soccer, whether it might be, I said, you know what? Then at that time you need to reach out and get in and get some extra coaching. Because remember, the coaches, those youth coaches on those baseball fields, they got 12 kids. They got real jobs too. They're not going to really teach. They can't teach all the kids on how to play how the techniques. They just don't have the time. They just don't. They're literally managing the team just to get a game together, just so you're having some competition. And I think 99% of them do a tremendous job just getting that done.
Yeah.
So if your kid is 9 or 10 and he is, starting to excel a little bit, and maybe he's a bigger kid and he really is the first one in the car to go to practice, right? Well, you know what? Might look around a little bit and talk around and see, and find maybe some individual help, whether it be batting or whether it be pitching, whether it might be to help him excel, kind of individually. I think that would be the time to kind of look out to pay those things. The select teams, the amount of dollars. I would wait. I'd wait till at least 11. I mean, I just really would, because I'm afraid that when they're 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, there's a huge drop off between 9 and 10-year-old kids going into 11 and 12-year-old kids. I'm
Mhm.
talking about almost 40% of the kids. Okay, 40% of the kids quit playing baseball,
Yeah.
okay, during that period of time. Okay, so because they just don't the parents pushed them enough to play, to the 9 and 10s, and when they start pitching at each other, some of them just really don't like that. Or they're not as successful because they're not hitting the ball, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so I would say at the 11 and 12-year-old program, I said that's where, you know, if a child has the ability, does extremely well in the recreation environment, then maybe kind of look at some of the select teams and maybe select programs, like I said before, that are well organized. I wouldn't go with I would go with a program that's well organized, because that makes it safer for the kids as well and safer for the parents as well.
Well, Coach Gumby, that's gonna do it for us today. Any last thoughts that you want to share with Mike or ask him about?
No, I just think what a resource. I mean, I grew up in nowhere, Texas, and we did not. I mean, you look a little bit younger than me, Mike, and I'll just say that when I grew up, there was nothing like Town and Country. We there was a bunch of dads that was out there doing exactly what you were talking about, and we had a lot of fun doing it. But the theme of the whole thing is that um, there was just an opportunity to be able to do it by our community, and whether it was on a small level or on the level of what Town and Country is able to do it, it made a difference. I mean, those early impressions in my life of being able to experience sport uh, helped shape me into the person that I am, and I can only speak as a parent how grateful we are to have an organization like Town and Country, and someone that has a lot of leadership skills like yourself that help bring it to where it is 50 years down the road.
Well, thanks a lot. We should appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks for all your time. We're going to end there. I'm going to go ahead and cut us on the recording, and I'll.
You've seen prices rise from the dinner table to the pump, but Allstate agents are seeing ways to save you money on insurance. From starting a new policy to bundling coverage or even driving safely, Allstate agents know how to maximize your savings. They'll share their knowledge as they help you personalize your coverage. Because when it comes to seeing all the ways to save, Allstate agents do it best.
Mike Hammer has over 35 years as an Austin area Allstate agent. Call 512-343-6994 or visit MikeHammer@allstate.com.
Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is the Parent Portal Show.